संसारधावा नललीढलोका त्राणाय कारुण्य गणगणात्वम् प्राप्तस्य कल्याण गुणर्नवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् महाप्रभु कीर्तन नित्य गीता वादित्र्यमाद्यान् मनसुरसेना रोमञ्चकम्पा श्रुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् श्रीविग्रहाराधन नित्यनानां शृङ्गारतन्मन्दिरमार्जनादो युक्तस्य भक्तां शनियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् चतुर्विधा श्री भगवत्प्रसादो स्वादन्न तृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्गन् भगवत्प्रसादो स्वादन्न तृप्तान् भगवत्सङ्गन् कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपारा माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्नाम् प्रतीक्षणास्वादनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् निकुञ्जयूनो रतिकेलिसीद्यै यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्राधिदाक्षात् अतिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् साक्षाद्धरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रैर् युष्टभाव्यत एव सद्भि साक्षाद्धरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रैरुक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भि किन्तु प्रभोया प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायं स्तुवन्तस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्यान् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् 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 नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे शून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे
व्रजे प्रसिद्धं नवनीतचौरं गोपाङ्गनानं च दुःखुलचौरम् अनेक जन्मार्जिता पापचौरं चौराग्रगण्यां पुरुषं नमामि श्रीराधिकाया हृदयस्य चौरं नमां बुधश्यामलकान्तिचौरम् पादाश्रितानां च समस्तचौरं चौराग्रगण्यां पुरुषं नमामि आकिञ्चनीकृत्य पादाश्रितां या करोति पतिगेहहीनम् केनाप्यहो भीषणचोरये दृष्टश्रुतवान् जगत्त्रयेऽपि यदीयनामापि हारशेषं गिरिप्रसारनपि पापराशिन् आश्चर्यरूपो ननुचरयेद्रेक् दृष्टश्रुतवान् माया कदापि ध्यानं च मानं च ताथेन्द्रियाणि प्राणं सहित्वा मम सर्वमेव पालायसे कुत्र धूत्रोऽधचोरा त्वं भक्तिदाम्नासि माया निरुद्धा चेनसि घोरं यमपाशबन्धं भीमसि भीमं भवपाशबन्धम् चेनसि सर्वस्य समस्तबन्धं नैवात्मनो भक्तकृतं तु बन्धम् मन्मानसतामसराशि घोरे कारागृहे दुःखमाय निबद्धा लाभस्वहे चरहरे चिराया स्वचर्यदोषोचितमेव दण्डम् व्रजे प्रसिद्धं नवनीतचोरं गोपाङ्गनानां च दुःखुलचोरम् अनेकजन्मार्जिता पापचोरं चोराग्रगण्यां पुरुषं नमामि कारागृहे वस सदा हृदये मदीये मद्भक्तिपाशधृतवन्दन निश्चलासन् त्वं कृष्ण हे पराकोटिशतन्तरेऽपि सर्वस्य चोरहृदयान् नहि मोचयामि जय राधा नीला माधव राधा नीला माधव राधे जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय लक्ष्मी नारसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नारसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नारसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नारसिंह निताई गौरंगा निताई गौरंगा निताई 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 गौरंगा जय सचिनंदन जय सचिनंदन जय सचिनंदन गौर हरे निताई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताई गौर हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव
Jai Om Shnupada Brahmhamsa Pratikacharya Ashtota Shata Shishimati Divine Grace Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Bhaktivedanta Institute Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Shnupada Brahmhamsa Pratikacharya Ashtota Shata Shishimati Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Haridasa Thakur Ki Jai Premise Koho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Braja Bhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Purushottama Chaitra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samavrita Bhaktavinda Ki Jai Purushottama Atika Masa Ki Jai Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Namaste Narasimhaya Pralada Lada Daine Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha Shilatanka Nakalaya Ito Narsima Parato Narsima Yato Yato Yamitato Narsima Bahir Narsima Hridaye Narsima Narashemamadim sharanam prapade. Tavakara kamalavare nakam adbhuta shringam dalita hiranyakashipu tanubringam keshavadhirita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jayo Narsimhadev Jayo Narsimhadev Jayo Narsimhadev Jayo Narsimhadev Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Jayo Gurudeva 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 Jayo Gurudeva Anitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Anitya Gaura Hari Bol
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Prayasi જે તો મારા શરણ લો તારા વંશ પૂર્ણ હોય. কৃপা করে করো তারে বৃন্দাবন বাসী. কৃপা করে করো তারে বৃন্দাবন বাসী. नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी. नमो नमः मुरारे अभिलाष विलास कुंजे दियो वास. मुरारे अभिलाष विलास कुंजे दियो वास. नयन हरिबो सदा जुगल रूप राशि. नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी. नमो नमः हे निवेदन धर सखीरनुगत करो. हे निवेदन धर सखीरनुगत करो. सेवाधि कर दिए करो निज दासी. नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी. नमो नमः दीन कृष्ण दास गोए नमो रहा. दीन कृष्ण दास कोए नमो रहो. श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा जिन भाषी. यानी कानी च पापानि ब्रह्म हदधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे. तानि तानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे अनेकानि च पापानि यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna जय तुलसी महारानी, जय वृंदे देवी, जय तुलसी महारानी, जय वृंदे देवी. जय वृंदे देवी, जय वृंदा देवी, जय वृंदे देवी, जय वृंदा देवी. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. तुलसी महारानी की
Thus, within my vision, I shall behold the beautiful path of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me follow a car danced virgin. Please give me the privileged devotional service and make me own maid servant. This very fallen, lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always swim in the love Shri Radha and Govinda Srimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. There are 10 fences in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of the demigods, Lord Shiva or Brahma, to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To dissipate the order of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuing the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities, offering the Veda fruity activities, karma, kanda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glorious holy name. 10. To know the complete faith in the chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments in understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees, Lord. They are just as I treat who can fulfill to everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Jeto Darpana Marjanam Pavamaha Davagni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chantrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Pudivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamita Sadhanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuta Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaranina Kalaha Eta Deshi Tavarkripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durudevami Desham Yaha Janina Nurakaha Trinatapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sada Harihi Na Thanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Jammani Jammanishvare Bhavata Bhaktir Haituki Tavai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mang Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Sthita Duri Satesham Vichintaya Nayanam Karadashru Daraya Vadanam Kadgada Rudaya Gira Pulakai Nichitam Vapur Kada Tava Nama Grahane Bhavishati Yuga itam nimishena chakshusha pravisha itam shunya itam jagat sarvam govinda virahe name Ashrisava Padaratam Pinnastumam Adarshanam Marmahatam Karotuva Yatha Tatha Va Vidatatu Lampato Mat Prananata Susa Eva Naparaha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Shastakam Ki Jai.
Glory to Shri
Krishna
Krishna
Sankirtana, which cleanses heart of all the dust accumulated for years, and extinguishes fire of conditional life, or repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity in the large, because it spreads the rays and banishes the moon. It is the life of all transcendent knowledge. It increases the ocean transcendent bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grant all benediction of human beings, that you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have vested all your transcendental energies.
There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names.
O my Lord,
out
out
of
kindness
kindness
enable us to easily approach you by holy name. But I am so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name, Lord, in humble state of mind,
thinking oneself lower than a strong street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O my mighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causes of devotion service, birth after birth. O Son of Nanda Krishna, I'm your eternal servitor. Yet somehow I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from the ocean of death and place me on the island of your lotus feet. O my Lord, while my eyes be decorated tears of love flowing constantly and chanting holy name. When my voice choke up, when the hairs of my body stand on address your holy name. O Govinda, feeling of separation, I'm considering the moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if hands be ruffled by his grace. What makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me? He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord.
Unconditionally.
Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai.
Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-salakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Desha Tarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhani Videvi Daitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhavin Namaha Madhuryo Jala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktita Shri Gaura Karna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinadarine Rupanuga Virudapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sasha Vairagya Murtaye Viparambara Sambodhe Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumistwan Nirdishta Sajana Priyaha Vaishnava Savabhama Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarupishya Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishin Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinapanto Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surator Pangor Mamamanda Matirkati Masarvasva Padam Boju Radha Madana Mohano Divya Vrindarana Kalpadumadaha Shimadrana Kara Singhasanasto Shrimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prishtaripi Sevimano Smarami Shriman Rasarasarambi Vamsi Vata Tatasita Karshan Venus Ner Gopir Gopinatha Shriyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakhara Satma Sukha Praviksha Lakshariteshu Surabhi Rabhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Paramasevimanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kavanantam Aravinda Dalaya Taksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Gandharva Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chanda Kalasa Vanamare Vamsi Ranangadam Panayakeli Kalavilasam Shyamam Shibanga Lalitam Yata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Viddimanti Pashanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chimmaya Satujala Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achotamanadi Mananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakta Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Vantaskoti Satavansara Sampragamyo Vayuratapi Manaso Munipungamanam Sopyastiyat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chaitum Jagadanta Kotim Yashakti Rasti Jagadanta Yayatanta Andantarashta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Yo Manujasta Deva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusha Suktaryameva Nigama Patitaistu Vanti Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chimmay Rasa Patibhavitabi Stapi Evan Jarupataya Kalapi Goloka Eva Nivasati Kiladma Bhutto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churuta Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hidayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Chintya Guna Swarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Muti Shukala Niyamena Tishtanna Navatara Makaro Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhava Parama Pumam Yo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with a head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, around whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers, beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shyamasundara is eternally manifest.
Very good. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, he is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayam by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years.
Very good.
He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore.
Very good. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm Goloka, with Radha resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Sakis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyamasundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion, tinged with salve of love.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna, and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Radha, Narsimha, Vamana, etc. Rama, Narsimha, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions.
Very good. Thank you. Glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
We can repeat together. Janmadasya
Yato anvayat itarachartetu abhyaswarat tene brahma hridayadi kavaye muhyanti yat suraya tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrasa Dhamna svena sada nirastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi.
Anybody?
O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervaded personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being.
By him?
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Very good. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2, we can recite together.
Dharma projita kartavyotra nirvarsaranam satam Vedyam vatsu
Vastu Shividam Tapo Trayon Mugunam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite Kimbapare Ishvaraha Sadhya Hrideva Rudvite Raga Kriti Vidisis Vistakshanat. Anybody?
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.3. We can recite together. Igama Kapataror Galitam Phalam Sukhamukad Amritam Drapi Samritam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam Muhur Aho Raska Bhuvibhagavaha.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls.
Thank you very much. Shishi Churgurastkam, English translation. I offer my respectful obeisances to that foremost of thieves, who is famous in Vraja as the butter thief, and he who steals the gopis' clothes, and who, for those who take shelter of him, steals the sins which have accrued over many lifetimes. Next.
I offer my respectful obeisances to the foremost of thieves, who steals Srimati Radhika's heart, who steals the dark luster of the fresh rain cloud, and who steals all the sins and sufferings of those who take shelter of his feet.
Haribo.
He turns his surrendered devotees into paupers and wandering, homeless beggar. Alas, such a fearsome thief has never been seen or heard of in all the three worlds.
Mere utterance of his name purges one of a mountain of sins. Such an astonishingly wonderful thief I have never seen or heard of anywhere. Go.
O thief, having stolen my wealth, my honor, my senses, my life, and my everything, where can you run to? I have caught you with the rope of my devotion.
You cut the terrible noose of Yamaraj. You sever the dreadful noose of material existence. And you slash everyone's material bondage. But you are unable to cut the knot fastened by your own loving devotees.
O stealer of my everything, O thief, today I have imprisoned you in the miserable prison house of my heart, which is very fearful due to the terrible darkness of my ignorance. And there, for a very long time, you will remain, receiving appropriate punishment for your crimes of thievery.
O Krishna, thief of my everything, the noose of my devotion remaining forever tight, you will continue to reside in the prison house of my heart, because I will not release you for millions of aeons.
Very good, thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 14, text number 21. Navayam prabhavastam tvam. Navayam prabhavastam tvam. Anukartam viheshwari. Apyayusa vakarsneyan. Yechan ye guna vidanava. Na, never. Vayam, we. Prabhava, are able. Tam, that. Tvam, unto you. Anukartum, do the same. Griha Ishwari, O Queen of the home. Api, in spite of. Ayushya, by duration of life. Va, or in the next life. Karshneyan, entire. Yea, who, cha, also. Anye, others. Guna, kridanava, those who are able to appreciate qualities. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Anybody can read.
O Queen of the home, we are not able to act like you, nor could we repay you for what you have done. Even if we worked for our entire life, or even after death, to repay you is not possible, even for those who are admirers of personal qualities.
Okay, somebody can read the purport?
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. So much glorification of a woman by her husband indicates that he is henpecked or is talking lightly in joke. Kashyap meant that householders living with wives enjoy the heavenly blessings of sense enjoyment and at the same time have no fear of going down to hell. The man in the renounced order of life has no wife and may be driven by sex desire to seek another woman or another's wife and thus go to hell. In other words, the so-called man of the renounced order who has left his house and wife goes to hell if he again desires sexual pleasure, knowingly or unknowingly. In that way, the householders are on the right side of safety. Therefore, husbands as a class cannot repay their debt to women either in this life or in next. Even if they engage themselves in repaying the woman throughout their lives, whole lives, it is still not possible. Not all husbands are as able to appreciate the good qualities of their wives, but even though one is able to appreciate these qualities, it is still not possible to repay the debt to the wife. Such extraordinary praises by a husband for his wife are certainly in the mode of joking.
Wow. Okay, so Kashyapa Muni is joking. I wish it wasn't true. So, there's a lot of jokes nowadays in the material world. Another big joke is the sex education that's being given in schools to kids. Do you have that information, Prabhu? Yeah. Why don't you read it and let's hear what it says. Yeah, take your time.
Maharaj, this is the search I have made throughout the United States health education, sexual health education. Sexual health education prepares students to use condoms and birth control when they do have sex.
Okay, 1 second. Stop right there. So, let's see what Krishna consciousness says and compare it to what we just read. Read that again.
Sexual health education prepares students to use condoms and birth control when they do have sex.
So that's assuming that a lot of kids are going to engage in sex. And their only solution is contraceptives and, what was it, condoms and
Birth control.
birth control. Now, Krishna consciousness, I remember when there was the so-called epidemic of HIV and AIDS, a lot of people were saying, well, look, wait a minute. If people don't engage in illicit sex, there wouldn't be any HIV and AIDS. So why don't we teach kids the value of chastity? No. They're assuming here right away that maybe not all kids, but a lot of kids are going to engage in illicit sex. And therefore, they want to make available contraceptives and different ways to kill the baby or kill or avoid having a baby. So you see, right away, they are deviating and advocating things that are nonsense. If kids don't have illicit sex, you avoid all these problems. So why don't you teach them the value of chastity, especially before marriage, and even in marriage, to have sex only for procreating strong, healthy, spiritually adept children. You see how mean these people are. They right away take you to killing the baby. Go ahead.
It also prepares you to build skills to have healthy relationships. Ask for consent to engage in sexual
Healthy
activity.
relationships with people engaging in illicit sex? What are you talking about? Go ahead.
Ask for consent to engage in sexual activity and respect the boundaries of their partner. Communicate with their family about sexual health and dating.
This is all predicated on the idea that they're going to have sex. They're not even talking about chastity. They didn't mention chastity anywhere in that.
No, Maharaj.
You see how mean they are and how misleading they are. Go ahead.
And this is predominantly from SPS Sexual Health Education, which is from the Seattle schools. Sexual health education is a critical component of comprehensive health education that helps students develop knowledge and skills needed to become successful learners and healthy and productive adults.
Ooh, blah, blah, blah. Yes, sir. Let's just give them condoms. They'll be very good students. Go ahead.
The Washington legislature found that young people should have the knowledge and skills necessary to build healthy relationships and to protect themselves from unintended pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases, including HIV infection. The primary responsibility for sexual health education is with parents and guardians. However, this responsibility also extends to schools and other community groups. It is in the public's best interest to ensure that young people are equipped with medically and scientifically accurate, age-appropriate information that will help them avoid unintended pregnancies, remain free of sexually transmitted diseases, and make informed, responsible decisions throughout their lives. Parents, guardians may preview sexual health materials and may opt their students out of specific topics by contacting the classroom teacher. Seattle Public Schools support sexual health education that builds positive attitudes and skills needed to reduce rates of pregnancy, STDs, and sexual violence. Encourages family communication, respects diverse community values, sexual Health education prepares students to understand the changes that happen during puberty, abstain from sex, use condoms and birth control when they do have sex, build skills to have healthy relationships, ask for consent to engage in sexual activity and respect the boundaries of their partner, communicate with their family about sexual health and dating, make decisions that minimize risk to their sexual health, seek medical care in order to take care of their reproductive health, intervene or support when someone is being harmed, know how to access community resources.
That's it?
And there was another article from US News about K to 12 sex education in schools.
Yes.
So I just want to say, Guru Maharaj, I would like to go off the record. So basically, in 4th and 5th grade, for my own child, I was able to avoid the flash education. And way back in India, none of our teachers, even if it was in 8th grade, until unless you take 11th and 12th dedicated biology, but in 8th grade they don't make us read that, or we can skim over it. But in 10th grade here,
Here or in India?
in America, it was mandatory for me to allow my child to read about all the flash education,
What's flash education?
sexual education, they call it. And then, I think 2 days ago, she told me that they go vivid about it. They even share the pictures. And apparently, she knows more than what even I have access to. So that was shocking to me and surprising. And then she went on to explain me that, it was required also because all her peers will know about this knowledge. And let's say if I would have fought and even bypassed that. But what happened because of that is there was a greater divide between the child and the parent also. Because school is teaching them something which is culturally not taught in Indian homes like the way they have taught. So she was like, they go quite graphically, quite visual. They show videos and it's not like they segregate boys or girls. And few days ago, she also shared with me for the college essay in Stanford. She just showed me the essay, which like one, which where the girl got the complete selection, and it was all about promiscuity and how she'll be like going into getting into the college and making friends with the new roommate. So basically, what I understood is that American education system, quite after 10, they just focus on dating and having healthy relationship and training them, and that's what their goal is.
Healthy relationship?
That's what they teach, that you have to be safe because otherwise you
Well, how can you have healthy relationship if they're showing pornographic pictures and explaining how to have sex?
It had in her mind for 2 years almost, and she shared with me only 2-3 days ago.
So you didn't know she saw those things, or?
No, I was not knowing that all this she knows because all I know what I taught her in 5th grade. So I could never imagine some school will go overboard to go such details to her. And surprisingly, she did her 9th grade in India, 10th in some other school district where all the children were Indian. The impact was still less. But when she transferred herself to Skyline, she says that children talk among her peers about these talks as if they do it every day. And she was talking about white girls. She was like, this is a status symbol to talk about it. I know how I handle the day for myself. And that's what they get pressure to get. I was wondering why they have so much pressure to do makeup, to wear, clothes which are something very like, or the hairstyle. So I was not sure. So now I understand what they go through, especially when they're going into schools where Indian kids are not there.
Well, it comes back to the parents. Why would you let your kid go to such a school? I I don't see any of our devotees' parents objecting. So that means they support it.
And she's called by her student. They say you're too innocent for us to talk. That's what they come and tell her. And they use F word like anything. Even some of the devotee girls, even in temple, I have seen that many of the senior girls don't talk to her because they made their own group. Even they did it in Sadhu Sangha also. They were in their own groups and talking about this boy, that boy, and they gossip big time. So she approached one of the senior devotee and they suggested her to make friends outside of temple girls. And I think that was a bad idea, but so they get a lot of pressure because they don't get friends.
Why is that a bad idea? If the temple girls are talking nonsense, what's the difference between them and the regular girls that are talking nonsense?
And any of the parents who are sitting here, they can see if they see it in any Sunday or anything, some girls will be sitting very differently and they'll be chit-chatting and gossiping. I mean, I'm not sure about the teenager boys because I don't know.
That's the same thing, unfortunately. Okay, so here we see how the deck is stacked against the parents, teaching their children the value of chastity. But yet, the whole Vedic culture was based on that. And chastity before marriage, and in marriage only for procreation, and then maintaining chastity again. This was the culture of Bharat, and it worked really good. So we need to wake up and understand what's taking place. How not only are girls, boys also are being groomed to become sexually active before marriage, in marriage, after divorce, etc. Okay, so it's a very sad situation. Our own devotees, not all of them, but many of our own devotees don't understand. And you understand, but still your child was subjected to this without your knowledge. So that's how vicious the educational system is in the United States. Now, you have Christian schools, you have Muslim schools, where they try and teach the value of chastity. And in some ISKCON schools, they do that also. But you can see here, although we're talking about this, Prabhupada has so much information about all this, but nobody comes to the class to hear it. I'm not saying nobody. Very few people. And the ones that should come, these young girls and boys, they don't come. Now, whose fault is that? It's the fault of the parents. They're not taking the responsibility to protect their children. And then obviously the children are much more influenced by the demoniac culture than by Krishna consciousness. Now, that doesn't mean they're all bad, but anytime you deviate from hearing about Krishna, it weakens your determination to be Krishna conscious. So, therefore, many of our children will grow up, they'll become doctors, lawyers, and so forth, and spend most of their life engaged in mundane activities in order to make money and so forth. So, it doesn't mean that they become evil, but it means that they are very susceptible to breaking rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. Okay. Are there any questions about this? Now you know what the real face of sex education in Skyline School is, and all the other schools also. Yes.
And she told me that now you don't think that I am crossing the line, but this is the reality. Now don't start doubting me. I have shared with you, but don't start doubting and looking at me that I know all this, so I'm doing something, but this is the reality I face with. And I find it hard because she says, we are asked to work with boys, so why do you always say if someone talk to boy, I don't know, you are so traditional, I don't have answers. She says why it is like you think that if I'm talking to a boy, it is like I'm doing some Sanskrit education. We get groups, and I said you've always seen in ISKCON, right? We are sitting Mataji on one side and Prabhu on one side. I have no answers. She says in schools and everywhere, this is American society, and she goes on like girls talk as if flirting is quite normal. That's must, otherwise we fail. So, and also one strange phenomena I've seen her, that the school, they teach them how to do something by which within 2 years, within 4 years, they can start earning. So
Start what?
Start earning money, and they want to have a big house. That's what her goal is. So if they want to study so that they can get a big house. And the parents, I've heard from one parent that if the parent doesn't have a home like me or that Prabhu doesn't have, the parents put so much pressure. Every temple devotee is having so many houses. How come you don't have? And she asked me, how come you're in US for 20 years and you don't have a house? So the school system is training them, and she completely reversed her career path. She said, I want to be in computers because that's the quick shot for getting money after 4 years. So I was baffled.
Well, that's what you do too. Why would you be baffled by it? You're also into computers and IT. Okay. So, any other discussion about this? Anybody else want to say something?
Maharaj, this actually starts from elementary itself, like not about the sex education, but even though they know the kid is doing wrong,
What's that?
even though the teacher knows that the kid is doing something wrong, just in the way of behavior, they don't like to say anything. They would not say anything. At max, what they do is send them to the principal or call the parents. And for us, we have been raised, the teacher has the full potential to keep the kid in the straight line. If they are not, that may go even, give a slap or a beat, if in case.
So in other words, teachers don't have the power to correct the kids.
I'm not sure about the power or...
No, they don't have. They're not allowed.
I mean,
The American system of training, they say, they have taught me many times, the teachers, you sandwich, you say something bad, good, and things what you want to correct, and then say again, very good. And you're not supposed to say directly. Actually, I'm taking communication classes, I'm talking to Americans specifically, so that I can talk to my child in an American way where I don't say directly to her. Because in school they have been forced, they have dignity, they have personal space, and everyone should talk to you with so much respect. So even if I ask a simple question, are you going to eat prasad at the temple? Yesterday night I asked her, and there was a full argument. Ultimately she didn't eat, she had just taken lunch. But there was a full argument. What do you mean by this line? How are you saying this? You are like this. So because they are bombarded with a sophisticated, I don't know what language is it, but it's like a language which is not direct, but catering to them, catering to boosting their ego and like praising them rather than correcting them.
Very interesting. The whole culture of teenagers revolting against the values of their parents has been going on now for some time, like 3 or 4 generations. And it's completely, let's say, destroying the ability for these young kids to assimilate Krishna consciousness. And it's basically the parents' fault. Parents should come to classes with their kids, sit down together, learn together, child and parent, and discuss these things at home. Point out the discrepancies of the materialistic point of view about sex and other things, not only sex. It's all about also respect for elders and respect for holy men, respect for parents and grandparents. The whole culture of respect is being broken down by all these different speculations of the modern psychologists and so-called what you would call coaches. There's so many coaches now. You go, husband and wife go to see a marriage counselor. The marriage counselor listens to the husband, the marriage counselor listens to the wife. And many times they say, well, I think you should have a divorce. So why go to such a person? If they also, advocate divorce. The whole idea is you went there so that they could help you to come to an understanding to live together and not break that vow of marriage. So the vow of marriage is not respected hardly anymore. It's become weakened. And because of that, there's a lot of havoc, a lot of divorce, a lot of single parent families. And it's very sad because it affects the children. So what's surprising here is that Kardama Muni is glorifying his wife, but actually Prabhupada says, such extraordinary praises by a husband for his wife are certainly in the mode of joking. My God, what a statement that is. In a sense, you'd want to hope that's not true, but he's saying it clearly. Okay, so we'll do one more verse and then we'll stop. All week I might have shorter classes because I'm not feeling so good, but anyway. Atapikamam itam te prajat yai karavan yalam yatamam natirochananti muhurtam prati palaya. So we'll go right away to the translation. Even though it is not possible to repay you, I shall satisfy your sex desire immediately for the sake of begetting children. But you must wait for only a few seconds so that others may not reproach me. So, purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The hen-pecked husband, that means one, and hen usually refers to a woman. The henpecked husband, the husband who is like more or less being controlled by his wife, may not be able to repay his wife for all the benefits that he derives from her. But as for begetting children by fulfilling sexual desire, it is not at all difficult for any husband unless he is thoroughly impotent. This is a very easy task for a husband under normal conditions. In spite of Kashyapa being very eager, he requested her to wait for a few seconds so that others might not reproach him. He explains his position as follows. So here we see highly advanced people knowing how to, let's say, perform illegal acts and make it look as if they're not evil or they're not illegal acts. That's extremely dangerous, you see. So Kashyapa Muni, although he is a very, let's say, advanced spiritualist, he was not strong enough to control his lusty desires, nor was he able to convince his wife not to engage in such activity. So by his glorifying his wife in a, let's say, inappropriate way, he prepared the basis to break the rules of Krishna consciousness. And it says here, the henpecked husband may not be able to repay his wife for all the benefits that he derives from her, but as for begetting children by fulfilling sexual desire, it is not at all difficult for any husband unless he is thoroughly impotent. This is a very easy task for a husband under normal conditions. In spite of Kasyapa's being very eager, he requested her to wait a few seconds so that others might not reproach him. He explains his position as follows. So he knows he's doing something wrong, but he can't control himself. That's why it's so important that our children, right from birth, are educated. The boys are educated to be brahmacharis, the girls are educated to be brahmacharinis. And it's not that, jai karo, jai karo, jai karo, when they're like 3 years old, 5 years old, 8 years old. But as soon as you get into 10, 12, they're not so enthusiastic about doing jai karo. Why? Because they're beginning to be groomed to be sense gratifiers. So, the most important period in a young person's life is between like 15 and 20. Whatever happens in those 5 years will determine what that person will be like the rest of their life. So, those are the most formative years for a young person because they're discovering the world. Just like your daughter, she was subjected to all this, what we would consider improper sexual, let's say, advocacy. And it takes a toll. It enters into the mind, it enters into the culture of the person, and it's hard to get it out of the mind. So we have to learn to have our own schools and to protect our children from the onslaught of the culture of illicit sex and the abandoning of Vedic Dharma. People don't understand the value of this. It's very important. Now you might say, well, my kid is a good kid. They're not killing anybody. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. They're getting straight A's, this thing, that thing. But the discussions that they're having amongst themselves, as you witnessed or you were made privy to, proves the opposite, that they have become contaminated by the desire to have wealth, big houses, and a lot of, let's say, amenities for an easy life. But that diminishes their ability. It shouldn't, but it does diminish their ability to be Krishna conscious. Any discussion about that? Somebody might object and say, oh no, my kid's okay. What are you talking about? He chants some rounds, or she chants some rounds, this thing, that thing. They go to the festivals, and this thing. They're doing some service. Okay, that's good. I'm not arguing about that. But in the long term, they're being groomed to be, let's say, a vishayi, a sense gratifier, rather than a pure devotee. Any discussion about that?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
As
So
well.
I think this point is very valid, because from outside we might do a lot of activities just to fit into the group. But it's right now what we're talking about, pure becoming a pure devotee is an underlying desire that they have to develop and work towards it constantly. I mean, just like we also have to firm up that. So I mean, I think given that the kids are exposed to all kinds of, vishayis, culture throughout, the need for them to hear this, the need for them to, meditate on this at home, I mean, it's significant need is there. Otherwise, I mean, if we leave it, the natural direction of the consciousness is to fall down. And so we have to create the environment, we have to constantly work with the kids to keep reminding them and then bring them back to the culture of raising the consciousness. And it's not just like peripherally doing activities.
Yeah, but to do that, ideally, you should have a school. If you can't have the school, then the kids have to learn to go to sleep early, wake up early with their parents and come to classes. That's possible also. But what's going on now, okay, they do kirtan, and that's fun for them. They like it, they're chanting the holy name, that's good. But ultimately, what are the discussions? So, you do something good, and then you throw some dirt on it. So, that's not really positive, it's negative. You want to do all good things, Krishna conscious things. So anyway, this is a question that the parents have to learn to deal with. And you see there's different societies in the United States. The Hasidic Jews, the Muslims, the Christians, they're trying their best to protect their kids. Therefore, they're spending a lot of money having schools and maintaining those schools so they get a spiritual education. It used to be the Catholic Church also, they have their own schools. But you know, even in those schools, eventually, if they're not careful, they get contaminated also. Like there's a Catholic school right down the street. They asked me once to come there to give a class or give a talk. And I could see that they had kids there that were dating, that were not dressed in you know, a very nice way, the provocative way of dressing. And that's a Catholic school, right? So, yeah, we have a lot to learn now. Is this the beginning of Krishna consciousness? Well, we're 50 years plus into Krishna consciousness, but have we succeeded in educating our kids properly? Well, to a certain degree, but there's a lot more that has to be done. Okay, I'll stop right there. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, thank you for all that information, Mataji, and thank you also for the information you gave us.
Most of the temple teenager girls, they're having Instagram, Snapchat accounts, and so I actually let go of my cell phone also because I shared with her so that she, and then she's not part of those groups. They have Facebook account, and that's where they all put their photograph. I see a lot of photographs by Sanskrit, and she just put it to herself. So they are so active on these social media, and it's very easy to. So I just cancelled one of the friends. So we share the phone, and so that it's very hard for her to open these accounts.
Well,
But she's not part of the temple girls then, because I cut her out of that group.
let's pray for our kids.